afternoon, everybody. It is Monday, and it is the AT&T Pebble Beach. Would be a Pro-Am, but it's not going to be a Pro-Am this year. Thankfully, I guess, for us gamers that like to watch the golf as well, we won't have to deal with the amateurs. It'll be 156 golfers over 2 different courses, which will be a little different. But, Jeff, we'll get into that in a little bit. We've got a lot to discuss last week, a bunch of action going on around the world of golf. And we got the Bash brothers, man. They are back, whether they're bros or not. Maybe a question that remains to be seen. We certainly knew who they used to be. Seems like they had a big falling out, but it seems like they're both trending towards a pretty good direction. Obviously, Dustin Johnson, the best player undoubtedly in the world. 4-1 this week, Jeff. Bringing in on that note, besides his sniper of a drive that took out somebody or almost killed somebody, what else did you make of Dustin Johnson's start out in Saudi Arabia?
I mean, I honestly didn't follow that event too much just because I consider it like the course isn't that good. It's more of just you get half the guys showing up for money. I mean, there's some obviously players like Justin Rose is taking it pretty serious, a guy who needs a couple good starts to get it back. But so I think Justin Rose is the main thing I take from it. But I don't know. I mean, Dustin winning is great, but it's not like a big deal, right? I mean, okay, Dustin Johnson won a golf tournament. You know, it's like him just winning another little PGA event. So, I mean, it's good. We get more confirmation that Dustin's the best golf player in the world, but, you know, I don't take too much of it. You know, even guys like DeChambeau finishing top 20 there, half of those guys are just over there to collect a paycheck. So I think maybe the biggest thing to take from that one is just, Justin Rose showing a bit of form, maybe keep an eye on it.
Yeah, Tony Finau again, of course, second place. We can't go without talking about that for a half of a second. It's just yet again a bridesmaid. Speaking of another bridesmaid, we'll talk about Xander Schauffele before we move on. But I want to thank everybody that's joining us here on this Monday afternoon or whenever you're watching this. If you are on playback, thank you for coming. Make sure you like and subscribe. Or if you're going to hate my speed take, you can go and dislike the video too. I'll know exactly what that means here this week. And of course, make sure, again, you subscribe. I come out with videos all the time. My Pga Dfs top 5s. We've got Jeff coming out with stuff as well. So make sure you subscribe to our channel before we move on. So let's talk about Xander Schauffele, another bridesmaid. We talk about Tony Finau in this place a lot. Maybe not Xander Schauffele as much because he kind of got a win in there, but not really. It's really a trend for Xander not being able to close, though. Maybe just as much as Tony Finau.
Yeah, it's a really weird stretch for him, right? I mean, you go back to that 2020 Tournament of Champions, he had like a 5-foot putt for birdie to win the event. Like, he gets that, you know, we're probably not even talking about it. The dude would have 5 wins. You know, he'd be basically a year without a win, not that big a deal, but now we're kind of over 2 years without a win kind of thing. It just comes so close so many times. I don't know. I mean, it's a weird, like I said, it's kind of weird with Xander. He seems to have really sharpened up like the scrambling and the putting. I mean, he's doing this at an elite level like every week. The consistency is really impressive, but it does seem like he's taken a bit of a step back with the driver a bit. Like on Sunday especially, I mean, this dude used to be really consistent off the tee, and it's like, wow, I mean, now you're just spraying it a little bit more. So a little bit of cause for concern there, I'd say. I mean, I think it does show that, like, you know, when you get guys like Dustin and Brooks in contention, they're the ones smashing driver 350 down the fairway when they need it, whereas, you know, Xander couldn't find that on Sunday. So we'll see if he gets that back. But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's such a weird spot for betting Xander. You know a win is probably coming at some point, but how do you ever take plus 1,000 on him, which is probably what he's going to be in the next event, right? So yeah. I don't even know. Like,
especially when he can't close. And exactly, listen, you mentioned it was his driver on Sunday. His driver prior to that was pretty good. I mean, he was piping it out there. Listen, he was getting quite a bit past Spieth, and Spieth was pretty long. He had some 350 pluses, but like you said, big time on the back 9 when he duck hooked that on 14.
Yeah.
I mean, if he just makes par there, and I know he scrambled for bogey, but still that caught him and he had to take an unplayable lie. You can't be doing that on Sunday if you want to win the golf tournament. That's the bottom line. So the Bash brothers are back, though. I talked about them a couple of years ago in this vein. Let's talk about Koepka for a second. He didn't even play all that well. He shot 65, 6 under. It's a pretty good score. Best score of golfers in the top 10 entering Sunday. But he just took advantage on 17, a really win-defining shot. Loved it. I mean, I don't really like Koepka, but you got to admire it. And it's a good lead into our second topic. He said that the fans really propelled him there. And obviously, they got behind him when he made that, had an eagle putt on 15. Obviously, the tap in on 16. I mean, it obviously helped him. And look what it did. He won the tournament.
Yeah, first of all, great value for people who bet Brooks. I mean, I know I put him up at the Farmers. I got it in play on him a bit. I mean, and the sprinkle a little bit of pre-event as well. But, people who really touted him up. I mean, I just feel like it's such an important thing. When you get players of that quality dropping in odds, you should just bet them until they get back up. I mean, 40-1 on Brooks Koepka is insane, right? So well done there. But yeah, I think Brooks is, I don't even know if he's all the way back. I think his confidence is definitely going to get a big boost. And I think you saw the difference in psyches there, right? Where maybe Brooks isn't even 100%, but his psyche on Sunday is, I'm going to go out and win this. And, even though I'm far behind, I don't trust that these players are just going to be able to close it out. Whereas, Schauffele and obviously had a bit of a different psyche approach. So, and I'm sure Xander will get it figured out. And again, we're not bashing these guys in the chat. Like I said, Xander Schauffele, his consistency rate over the last year has been insane. Figure it out. There's definitely a bit of a mental block though, right? With him right now, Jason. I think it's fair to say that. And I think he will get it figured out. I think Xander has figured it out in the past. I think that's where he differs a little bit from Finau, right? We're talking about a guy who's got 4 wins already. Finau's got 1. It's the Puerto Rico Open. Xander's won against elite fields before. So I think Xander will get it figured out. But Brooks definitely just showing that really strong mental psyche again.
PGA Tour Live is a good subscription if you enjoy watching golf, and they've gotten some good commentators on the last couple of years. They got Trey Wingo on this year, which is great. They got Coachman on, who, as my wrestling fans, you guys might know, he's from there. He's just a good personality, and he even said, listen, Xander Schauffele might be the best player on tour right now when it comes to consistency. He's just got that winning block. We saw it with Rory McIlroy a lot last year. Sure. Sometimes these guys, they're in contention every single time they tee it up. They just can't win. That's okay.
Hard to close it out, man. It's the hardest part, right? Absolutely.
Yeah. And for DFS purposes, listen, and we're going to get into that. Xander Schauffele was still basically a must-own this week in that position, especially going up against Rory and other guys. He outscored them by 20, 30 points. So still definitely a must-own there. So a couple of other things on the fans. Brooks said it really helped him. Jordan Spieth said it really helped him. We saw obviously Spieth completely interacting again, showing why he is one of the biggest draws in the game. What do you make of that, though? Is there something that is actually quantifiable there that, hey, listen, when we don't have fans, we shouldn't be rostering these guys, or is that taking it a little too far?
Yeah, I don't know about not rostering them, but I think people definitely react different to pressure, right? And I mean, I think Spieth, you could probably put more in the Brooks Koepka category of, he doesn't mind interacting with the fans. He doesn't take it negatively. He probably uses it more to build on either way. He likes interacting a little bit. He likes people coming at him, whatever. I would definitely put him more in that category, right? We've seen it over his career. So I think there's something to it. Tiger talked about it too. It was hard it's hard for them to get up without a little bit of fan interaction. I think it does probably lend itself, maybe to different personalities a little bit differently, right? So I think for most players, having the fans there is a boost, but maybe a little bit more to other players. So I wouldn't dive too deep into it. It's just too hard a thing to quantify. What are you going to start crossing players off because there's no fans at one event and then there's fans the next week? That's just, I don't know. I wouldn't do that. But I definitely see the idea that some guys just might come in, they might be playing well, and they just get a little bit of a boost from being fans. I definitely can see that. And I think it probably happened last week with Brooks. So,
yeah, I think so, maybe even with Spieth a little bit as well. Hey, maybe even a little bit of Rory on Sunday, who didn't end up shooting 7 under. Maybe it was like, hey, listen, I know I got fans watching me today. I'll continue to try and put on a show. Granted, he's Cage Lee, 19x value. Steve Stricker, 17. First round leader, Matthew Neesmith, ended up having a pretty good tournament. He was 17, then obviously Koepka. Andrew Putnam out of nowhere finally broke the miscut streak, 16 value. JT Poston, back-to-back good starts. He was around 16. Carlos Ortiz, another good Sunday from this guy. On the opposite side of Xander is Carlos Ortiz, and this guy continues to do it. And then Spieth, Hahn, and Varner. You want to talk about Carlos Ortiz for a second? Because this guy, I think we got to put on the radar, especially when he's under 8K.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, Carlos Ortiz, again, if you're a little bit if you haven't been following golf the last 5 or 6 years, I mean, this dude won 3 times on the Korn Ferry Tour in 2014. He got the in-season bump up. I mean, at one point, like we were talking about Carlos Ortiz in the realm of like Justin Thomas and guys like that. I mean, up and coming young golfers who were about to make an impact. That's how talented he looked like he was. And he went through a dip. He got his game back. Like it's great for him. I mean, it's very much like, what we're seeing Spieth go through in terms of like a dip. I mean, obviously he never reached Spieth's height, but it's the same kind of deal. He reached a height and he dipped and now it looks like he's really turned it around and the confidence is there. And when the confidence is there with a guy that talented, I think you're going to see more from him. So it's great to see. Like I said, I know Ortiz was a hot name when I first started playing and writing about DFS golf, and it just sort of fizzled out. It was really weird, but he's back. Very talented player. So I love to see it. Definitely a guy you got to start taking seriously.
Scotty Scheffler came in the outside of the golfers. He wasn't in the top values, but had over 100 points. Wanted to talk about him for a second. As you and I both said, all miscuts are not made equal, and you and I were all over that. Probably one of our better calls you'll see in my breakdown of who I played this week. I followed that one. Just thought it was a really good spot for him, even coming off the 2 miscuts. He finally found his irons a little bit. So let's go over to the top 10 ownership. And this week, only one top 10 from the chalk, I'll call it, I guess, but only 2 missed cuts. So 6 of 6 was relatively high, I would call it. I know that sounds weird to say that 8% is high, but it actually is, especially given the fact that, in most GPP contests, 18 to the top 22 or 21% cash. So if you get 6 of 6, 8%, it's going to make that tough for cash line, obviously. Had Justin Thomas was the top golfer owned. Daniel Berger, he was the one who missed cut there, or 2 missed cuts. I'm sorry, him and Fowler. Other than that, though, pretty much everybody played pretty well. And, had you gone to Xander over Justin Thomas and the like, you would have definitely done very well playing the chalk outside of that. That's what a lot of people did. Any thoughts there? Did anybody higher on than you expected, or pretty balanced? It seemed pretty balanced to me last week.
It was pretty balanced. JT getting up there, and I think people, rightfully so, giving JT some respect. Rory got up there. Actually, really nothing surprised me that much, to be honest. Hideki maybe a little bit lower owned. I guess people coming off the course history. Actually was a pretty good pivot for people not to build up Hideki because he was kind of disappointing again. So I think people rightfully starting to realize course history isn't everything. That's maybe the only little surprise. I thought Sanjay was going to be higher owned than that. I was a little surprised. I was happy to see him come in at lower owned because he was one of my heavily owned players, but I was a little bit surprised at that. I mean, 9,400, this dude's playing pretty well. I really thought he was one of the better values on the board. So I think that was, just the lower ownership. I think I expected the spread ownership at the top, but really thought Sanjay would get up there. But whatever. He ended nicely. Certainly outperformed Berger at that price range. So I think that was the pivot. I guess the chalky Daniel Berger and the move to Sanjay really paid off.
What a brutal miscut for Berger, speaking of Berger. But all right, let's move on to our optimal lineup review. This week, a little different. 47.7 was the salary for it. Total lineup 737 point score. Just totally crazy there. The first time I think in a couple of weeks, though, Jeff, which surprises me that it happened here at this course at such a, it was a very strong field for all intents. Maybe one of the strongest that they've had in a while. But we saw Cage, Lee, Matthew, Neesmith. Maybe it was just a pricing thing that Spieth and Ortiz ended up being so low priced. But still, seemed like a strong field, the fact that we got under 48,000 for the optimal.
Yeah, absolutely. There were some, it is kind of strange, but at the same time, you had the chalk flying. Well, I don't even know, chalk, whatever. The big names flying like Koepka, Schauffele.
Yep.
But then you had these guys mixed in like Cage, Lee, Hahn, and Neesmith, man. It was weird. It looked like we were going to get another just out of the nowhere winner with Hahn or even Cage, Lee for a bit. And, so it was a fun event for that reason because you had no names mixed in with, not no names, but lesser names mixed in with the elite players. So I'm not shocked to see it end like this, but it does kind of feel weird that we had an optimal like this just because there were a lot of big names up there. I mean, Scheffler was up there, Usti was up there as well. You would have expected maybe that would have pushed it up closer to 50, but Neesmith and Cage Lee were kind of birdie machines out there this week. So I'm not overly shocked to see them up there.
Yeah, you got to give it to KH Lee. I mean, that was awesome. The James Hahn thing.
He played well down the stretch, man. KH Lee
he really held it together. On James Hahn's side, I was, as I mentioned, I was watching with my pops. He was over, and I said to him, I'm like, look, James Hahn, he's making all the putts right now, but his swing looks loose. I expect at least 2 water balls on the back 9. And sure enough, the 2 big shots, 13 and 15, the second, the drive on 13 and the second on 15, just nowhere close, actually, which it's too bad.
It's a hard back 9 to hold the lead on because you got so many nervous shots. Like I remember seeing Ben Yan fall apart back there. It is,
and then you're playing with Koepka, who's striped and putting it in every fairway. So
exactly, and then you got to play with, like I said, maybe one of the most mentally strong players in the game in Koepka. So, no fault to James Hahn. He did well just to get himself in there. I don't think anyone thought he was coming out of the pack. So, I like James Hahn. Well, we'll get to him when we talk about my lineup. It's actually going to be in a sad respect, but
sad respect.
Yeah, he. I wasn't overly shocked to see him blow up on the back 9 either.
Yep. All right, let's go into the top GPP lineup. 654 points for this single entry golfer, gamer. We'll call him gamer golfer. I'm not sure which way you want to go about it, but still, single entry. You just love to see it. Used 49.9, 52%. Found his way to Neesmith. Poston, I totally get. Byung Yanan, we talked about. All the other guys actually pretty obvious plays. Neesmith was the one that really set him apart. 112 points. That's huge coming in at 6,500. And that 6,500 range was a range that I liked. There was Sam Ryder down there, even a little bit lower. Tom Lewis was down there. So you had some guys. He found his way to Neesmith, who can get incredibly hot with the irons. One of my articles that I produced, the data-driven analysis article for Awesemo, highlighted him as a golfer that has the most starts that he gains over a stroke with his approaches on a percentage basis. So interesting to see Neesmith get it done. Maybe really a GPP target given his upside that we got to keep an eye on. So great lineup there. Love to see the single entries get it done. Now I want to bring up the top FanDuel lineup. Typically we don't do this, but I had to bring it up because, Jeff, it's the first time I've ever seen anything like this before.
Okay.
This lineup had Sungjae Im, Xander Schauffele, Brooks Koepka. You would think that's pretty obvious. Then I went to Jon Rahm, which I'm surprised it won with Jon Rahm. But the last 2 are what got me. Steve Stricker. Okay, maybe I can get that. And KH Lee? Are you kidding me? 0.1 and 0.3% owned. I don't think I've ever seen it before. I don't think any optimizer said that. So I would love to talk to this guy to see how he got to these 2. 1 of 2 is impressive. Getting to both? I mean, my mind is blown right now.
I mean, did he max out the salary?
It doesn't say on FanDuel.
Okay.
That's the crazy part. I would hope so, but that would be my next question. Like if he didn't. Yeah. Judging by having Rahm and Schauffele with Im and Koepka, I'm guessing he did.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah. So I'm going to guess it was one of those.
Got lucky? Like total luck.
Just click on a couple min price dudes and let's go from there. If I had to guess, right?
Yep.
KH Lee, I don't actually, KH Lee, I actually looked at last week, and I kind of like him as a scrubby punt because when he gets hot, this is what he does. Like he has multiple top 10s on tour. He's competed in tougher events. He can do it. He's proven he can do it. I don't know how you land on Steve Stricker. I got no clue. So I got nothing for Steve Stricker. I can get behind a little bit of a punt play for KH Lee, absolutely, because I've been there before. Like I said, I was even looking at him last week. I just didn't really build any lineups like that. But like I said, probably was just YOLO. Let's go for it. Let's click on a couple main price guys.
Well, let's see if Alex, our buddy Alex Awesemo Baker, found his way to KH Lee or Steve Stricker this week. I'm gonna guess not, but we're gonna review it anyway here. Alex had a great week. 22nd, his best performance in the $15. I didn't check the $55, but I'm sure it was pretty good as well. I saw him up there in the $500 signature hole with a couple of good lineups. Jon Rahm, top owned, 36%, kind of been his standard now, going in that high 30 range. Webb Simpson, second. Justin Thomas, Xander Schauffele. Now, if he could have just switched Jason Day to Jordan Spieth last week, I can imagine he would have shipped a lot of money. But he couldn't. He couldn't avoid Day. It was his only real big miss. Had Rory, had Carlos Ortiz, but also had 22% Brooks Koepka. Gotta love that. 15% on the field. A great buy low there. Had Harris English as well. Couldn't find himself away from that, but still pretty good showing. 93 golfers used. 22nd was the top lineup. Like I said, 3 golfers in the top 10. We switched down to mine. I had similar. I had Rory up top with Sungjae Im, Will Zalatoris, Scotty Scheffler, Justin Thomas as my top 5. Even John Rahm there as my top 6 went well, but I decided to buy 21% of Cameron Champ instead of 21% of Jordan Spieth. Wish I'd flipped those, obviously. My other big miss was Tom Lewis, and I'm disappointed. Probably my one big miss, Jeff, this week. Again, we had Sam Ryder, we had Matthew Neesmith in that range. Just no need to have 15% of Tom Lewis. Could have easily brought him down to 10 and given 2.5 even to Neesmith and to Ryder, and it would have been much better. So that was my one big miss last week. I'm surprised that I had that much of him, to be honest.
Yeah, it's, if you felt strongly about him, look, Lewis is a guy who can get hot too, right? So I know we talked about him a little bit last week. I definitely don't even hate the play. It is a little bit much. I mean, 15%, but at least he committed to it. I mean, it's YOLO, right? So you get down there. These guys are they can get hot one week and be another week. So it was obviously hindsight is 2020, right? But good. I mean, yeah, it is unfortunate looking at. I know, just going back to Alex's, like that 25% Jason Day. Man. That really just if he had just sprinkled in Spieth with like a couple other players or something, that could have been massive. But again, 26% Zalatoris for you. You hit him over Berger, so definitely a nice week. And obviously, you had more Jordan Spieth in the field. Not shocking, but you just needed to, I guess, kind of fall on the right value punts. I mean, the other thing is, it was such a weird week because we just generally don't see $6,500 players be that big a factor, like you said. So I don't know. It's one of those things you don't want to beat yourself up too much about, but it is hindsight. I was in the same boat, just with a slightly different salary player. So.
Yep, exactly. And we'll go over it. Got one more guy to go over, the top GPP player of the week. I always go over how their breakout is. And this one is really, really interesting. But yeah, I had it was not a profitable week, very close. I came in 33rd on FanDuel, and I'll show you that lineup in a bit. Had that got into the top 20, it would have been a profitable week throughout the board. On DK, I was seriously like a break even within one or two lineups of cashing in both the 5, the 15, and the 55. So a good player pool, which is great. I like seeing that, but obviously missing that top percentage lineup, that top 20 lineup, it's going to be hard to profit, especially long-term, if you don't have those 1% lineups each week. So let's talk about the Wog Show, who came in, I believe, 4th last week in the $15. The reason why I want to bring him up is because he had 6% Brooks Koepka. 6%, but yet found his way into the best Brooks Koepka lineup of any mass multi-enter. He had 41% Berger. Then it goes 40% Thomas, Home, 35% Rahm. Then Tringale, Burns, and Clark all over 30%, along with Watson, Connors, List, Zalatoris. Harris English and Sebastian Munoz also in 25% each of his lineups. So we're talking English, Munoz, and Berger totaled 105% of his lineups. Obviously, they were together in a lot of them. Yet he found his way to a lineup without any of them in there, and Koepka and Schauffele. It was pretty incredible. Just goes to show you it does take a little bit of luck to play in this game.
Absolutely, man. You just got to get the right mix. You got to get the right mix. If you can get the right player pool, but you still got to get them to fall in the right lineups. Pretty similar to what you and I kind of went through this week. We didn't have them fall in the right spots, but so what did he finish? Did he win? Like this player specifically, did he?
He came in 4th. So
sorry, that's what
4th. I think it was like 40 grand or 30 grand. So definitely
his one lineup. So his one lineup finished top 5. Okay, yeah, that's what I figured happened. I just I think I missed when you said 4th. So crazy. I mean, I've been there before when you just when your player pool kind of sucks, quite frankly. But terrible. You have a little bit of a hedge or some kind of leverage with a guy like Koepka, and you just hit the right lineup. I've done it, and it saved me, and it's a nice feeling, to be honest. And that is one of the things though about multi-entry. Like if you do have a save a little bit of percentage, maybe he wasn't big on Brooks Koepka for whatever 6%, reason.
6%, yeah.
Obviously he said, okay, I got to get a little bit of exposure. That's why you're doling out percentages. And sometimes it's not just a hard line. Like, okay, I'm having a 0 this guy, 100% of this guy. You got to kind of consider it like you're doling out, investments here. It's not just hard lines either way.
Exactly. All right, let's go into our own personal lineups here. This one that I'm going to show from DK is always my my top dollar lineup, whatever I enter in there. So I went to Rory again. I just thought 10,600 was a good difference between Rahm and Xander. And ended up Xander scoring 30 more points than Rory was the difference between this lineup cashing and not cashing. Other than that, it was pretty decent. Sungjae was a good call, I think, in my part, of just about a 10x there. Zalatoris, again, he played okay. 84 points is not going to hurt you in almost every single week. BH on, he was fine. Wyndham Clark, way over a 10x value. So obviously the Doc Redman miscut on the number, leading the field in strokes gain on approach through those 2 rounds is definitely hard to take, hard to pill to swallow, because it obviously cashes if he makes the cut. But still, I can't be that mad about the board because I missed up top again. And when you miss up top, you're not going to cash. It's just that's when somebody like Xander goes out and puts up 120 points and you pick Rory or Rahm for that matter, it's going to be really hard to cash. You're allocating so much of your salary to him. So that was my DK. And Jordan, I'll go quickly if you don't mind. Sorry, buddy. In my FanDuel, this was my top GPP lineup I created last week. It came in 33rd. Not bad. Found its way to Koepka. Found its way to Spieth as well. Jeff, I got to be honest. I'm so surprised that this lineup didn't end up in the top 10. I had 5 guys over 100 points, with a 4% owned winner, a 2% owned top 5 guy. Just goes to show you this game is pretty tough that this lineup finished 33rd.
Yeah, I guess it just kind of came down to, again, some of those lower price players just paying off with more birdies and pure like bonuses or DFS points or whatever, right? So it does suck because it's a great looking lineup. Just looking at it, man. I mean, Rory had the big sun. Rory and Sungjae. This one really must have moved on Sunday too. That's the other thing. Yep. So. Yeah, you needed.
And if it's Rory Xander here, it's a top 5 lineup, which obviously makes it a profitable week throughout the board.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, it sucks to say because like Ryder ended up being an okay play, but he just scored so much by the guys in his range, like Neesmith and those other dudes. It was kind of tough to take from that week, but that's kind of the week it was. You really needed to nail one of those lower price dudes who went off. So obviously in also needed Koepka and stuff like that, but
absolutely
good lineup nonetheless, man. Definitely at least got something out of the very low in Jordan Spieth, which I suspect we won't see for at least a few weeks.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe with his price, we'll get a little bit of this week. Well, before we go into your lineup, which, man, speaking of one guy off, you were at that this week. Yeah. Oh, so close. But you're going to be able to tell most of the people here where you're going to be going this week if they want to follow the hot streak, of course, with part of our Awesemo Plus membership. But if you're not already a member, let me tell you, we've got the NBA Big Board and the NHL player rankings for free today. So check those out. Now that NHL, now with NFL gone, it's got some pretty good GPP contests up there. I know my buddy Jay Carey will be certainly happy to see that. They're going up. I know they're not great yet, but certainly getting better. Now, if you're ready to join us, get access to all the great Awesemo Plus tools and content for nearly every DFS sport out there with an Awesemo Plus weekly pass for $29.95. This includes access to all the premium content and tools we've got on Awesemo.com, including the player projections, ownership projections, and, of course, our premium Slack channel, which, of course, Jeff and I are running through on a daily basis there. Answering questions, lineup questions, whatever you've got, we'll answer for you. And, of course, if you're only looking to play PGA this week, then come join us. $8.95 for the base package. And of course, if you're just looking for the Express, those are going to start at $3.95. So stop guessing and start winning like you did last week with this lineup. What a great lineup. Having Sungjae and Louis Oosthuizen. And you and I were like, hey, listen, it's going to be under 5% owned and you like them. Don't worry about price. Then you threw in Koepka, Henley, Homa, and just maybe a little bit of love for Charles Schwartzel. Going to bite you here this week, Jeff. Still a good cashing lineup. I'm guessing by the looks of it, a 2, 3, maybe even a 4X, depending on the contest.
Yeah, it was. This one was in the 55 there. I think it just got cut off there at the top. But yeah, definitely cashed up there. I think it was in like 270 in the big 55. But the thing that held me back was, and I mentioned James Hahn, I know when we were talking about values last week, but I ultimately sided with Schwartzel, who was coming off a really nice ball striking week. My 3 guys in this range that I really used were Ryder, Stanley, and Schwartzel. And I kind of cut Hahn out at the end. And man, like Hahn scored like 80 more points than Schwartzel. I think I would have finished 6th or 7th or something in this event if I just made that switch. So it was so close to being him dipping in here. Even with a Stanley or a Ryder in there, it would have been a little bit better. But Hahn, really would have put me up there in the top 10. So yeah, nice week. Brooks Koepka is a guy. I just had to 90. He's just too cheap. Like I just couldn't not go overweight on the field. So I mixed him in. Louis, I didn't even have to go much overweight. I just sprinkled him in, was easily double the field. And EM I already talked about. I really liked him over Berger. Hanley was a dude. I just, again, wasn't trending with a ton of ownership. We know he can get hot with the irons. I like the price. I thought he was a little bit undervalued. And I really liked Max Homa last week. Didn't really come through for me on the weekend, but, made the cut, which is better than Schwartzel. So I'm not going to say anything. So.
Yeah, I mean, even if you went to Stanley, like you said, it would be better. And it ended up being a little bit of a putting contest last week for the most part. And Koepka, he putted great. So interesting to see when Louis Oosthuizen gets that putter rolling, man, he can rack up those DFS.
Confident on the greens right now. I'm not going to lie. I'll go on the limb and say, I think a win might actually be coming for Louis pretty soon. He looks really comfortable over the ball. He's got to get, obviously, the ball strike. He faded a bit on Sunday. Looked like a little bit of fatigue there on the back nine, but I think he's getting close, people. So I would stay on Louis here for the time being. He'll probably miss a couple cuts in a row now that I've said this, but I'm going to stay on him for the next little bit.
Yeah, luckily you won't have to deal with that this week.
Won't have to deal with it this week.
As we transition into yet another fun tournament. Maybe not as strong a field. Only one golfer actually in the top 10 playing here this week. Patrick Cantlay is ranked number 11, though. I'm feeling after this week, maybe a win or a second place, that's going to get him back into the top 10. But Dustin Johnson, the only golfer ranked inside the top 10, coming here to play the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am here this week. Played only at 2 courses. Now, typically we get 3. One of the courses is much easier. If I'm saying it correctly, I believe it's Monterey Peninsula. That we're not going to correct this year. Yes. Yep. Spyglass Hill is par 72, 7,000 yards. And of course, Pebble, a par 72, 6,800 yards. Thing I wanted to bring up with you, Jeff, actually, Spyglass Hill played much tougher in the similarly predicted weather that we're going to get, which is cold, windy, and rainy. So it played about a quarter of a shot to a half a shot better. Is that enough for you to be like, all right, you know what? I'm just going to stack Spyglass Hill Pebble rotation because that's what all the good players are going to be on anyways, because that's for TV purposes, of course. Do you think you're going to lean that way anyway, or is that something you'd actually lean given this and what we saw last year?
I don't know. I haven't, the weather is going to be cold and it looks like it's going to be pretty tough. I'm not sure. I haven't made any decisions. Obviously, we got to get tee times out and stuff, but with only 2 courses in play, I'm not sure how big a deal it's going to be yet. The rotation. I mean, Spyglass Hill plays tougher. It's a little bit more wind protected. So, I will probably try and lean towards, just seeing if there's going to be a little bit more wind on one of the 2 days and maybe trying to target the Spyglass golfers on that day. Because I think I'd rather have my golfers on the Spyglass than Pebble. But I don't know. Both of these courses played pretty close in terms of toughness last year. Pebble was a little bit easier. The 2 courses in play, I think will make it a little less, we won't get as big a difference between the waves and which course your guys are on with the 2 courses. So It's definitely something I'm going to look at. And we do have some precedent, obviously, with the Amex using 2 courses as well recently. But for right now, I'm kind of just going to wait and see where the 2 tee times go and how the weather goes out. But I definitely may end up, doing some stack lineups with trying to target guys who are, again, calmer day, I want them on Pebble. Windier day, I want them on Spyglass, and see how that works out.
For sure. And if we want to focus on Pebble for just a second, where we're going to get 3 or 4 rounds, 67% of the greens, even though they're super small, like 3,500 square feet on the average, 66% fairways, but a lot of club downs off the tees. We know that obviously from the U.S. Open. 270 yards was basically the average drive. So definitely distance not in play this week. Yeah. Of course, that second hole is going to play as a par 5, as it always does for the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. It goes from the easiest hole during this tournament to the hardest hole at the U.S. Open. Just funny how they play that. It's just weird how a score to par works. But for DFS purposes, a lot of the points will be coming, obviously, from that second hole. So, all right, let's talk about a couple of golfers here on our first clicks section. And we know that course history certainly has some type of relevance here, but last year we had a Nick Taylor winner who basically had none. So that doesn't mean it's the end all be all. Some people certainly would suggest that it is more so prevalent here than any other, especially when we look at one of the first clicks I want to talk about, not my first click, I am out, but one of the first clicks I want to talk about is Jason Day. He came out at 50-1 price at DraftKings, and before maybe like the 10th or 20th person could go put the bet in, he was down to 33-1, just that quickly. Maybe playing off of hey, listen, Koepka just missed 3 straight cuts in one. Well, the difference between Koepka and Day, I feel like Day is still hurt. I think Koepka's done being hurt. So that's my take there quickly. Were you able to click Day at 50-1? Are you clicking him at 51 if his price goes back there?
So I can't bet on DraftKings coming Canada. So, I mean, I couldn't take advantage of it if I wanted to. But I'm betting Jason Day this week at 33-1. I think that's enough. I really do. Dude gained strokes on his approaches. And in each of the first 2 rounds last week, it wasn't a ball striking issue with Jason Day. It was a putting issue, and he's never played well at Phoenix. Like he really never has. I think it's his 4th time there. He's got like a career best of T60. So I'm willing to say that was a course thing. He's got a couple starts under his belt now. I look. There was only 5 starts ago. The dude was in the final group at Houston. You know, like it wasn't that long ago. I'm okay giving him a chance here. I really like this venue for Jason Day. If he was coming off a made cut, you probably see like in the 20s, you know, he'd be where Spieth is, plus 2,500 or whatever. Yep. I'm okay with it, man. I'm getting on Jason Day this week. I'm going to give him the benefit. I think that he comes alive this week. I really do. I think the approaches are there. I think he's got a couple starts. I haven't heard anything bad injury wise. Maybe you could be right. He's dealing with something. It could get nasty. I'm not saying this play doesn't have a lot of risk attached to it, but this is a dude who's been top 5 here in 5 of the last 6 years, and you're getting 30-1. And like I said, it was only 5 starts ago he was in the final rounds, final group in a PGA event. So I'm on Jason Day. I really like that price this week.
In 2016, he came 11th, so it's not like the other.
It's not like the other one was a bad year.
He came 11th, which, you know, given Jason Day's ability to putt and probably score, probably would be a decent return at. I think he's 9,500 on DraftKings this week. We're not quite there yet, but I'll make sure I get the price correct when we do go. Yeah, here's the thing. I'm very actually happy or excited to see the fact that his ball striking was much better last week. You know, gained 1.26 with the approaches on average. So that's almost 2.5 strokes. That's really good for him. Good to see. Nothing off the tee yet. So maybe a little worried there, but maybe not as worried here at Pebble and Spyglass because he knows the course so well that he'll know where to miss. He's going through a swing change to try and help prolong his career. That's the bottom line. Whenever you go through that, there's definitely a learning curve there. We saw it with Tiger Woods. He went through the exact same thing. We saw Tiger Woods get back to obviously the best form, maybe not the best form he's ever been in, but certainly winning the Masters a couple of years ago. 2019 Masters was probably some of the best golf he's ever played, given the field strength. So in any case, I do believe Day will come back, given the fact that we see it in his stats already. Is this the week for him? Well, if there's any week, it will be this one. Mm-hmm. However, do we want to play him over somebody who maybe doesn't have as many top 5s, but he's got a win here coming off a top 5? And yes, I am talking about Jordan Spieth. Don't we put these guys at similar parallels in their game right now?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, both of them. And look, I'm not discluding Spieth by talking about Day. Trust me.
Yeah.
I'm interested in both these guys. I'm interested in Molinari too, who I'm sure we'll get to.
Yep.
I think it sets up as really interesting events for all 3 of them. I think, and it's so strange where all 3 of them are at coming into this event, right? I mean, Day hasn't shown the recent form that Molinari and Spieth has, but we have seen him compete, like I said, recently. So it's there. I mean, all 3 of these guys are showing signs that, like, you know, this could be the week. This is a good setup for all of them too. I mean, I think it's a fantastic setup for Molinari, who's been really sharp in his approach game and around the green lately. We know what Spieth did last week, lighting it up. You know, Spieth isn't going to be as disadvantaged off the tee here. I just think this is a good setup that meshes well with all 3 of these guys. None of them are dominant off the tee right now. They don't have to be here though. They're all trending well with their approaches. They can all get around the greens great. And if their putter gets hot, like, look out. So I think one of these 3 guys has a really good shot of winning this week. And it would not shock me if the winner came from Molinari, Spieth, or Day.
I think it's very interesting to group those 3 together because they're 3 guys that, given if we were talking about this 3 months ago, we'd all be like, what?
Yeah.
These are the three for our
like
picks to win.
Cross off, right? Like, yeah.
Another guy that I want to add to this, he was my first click at 20-1. Okay, because I can't bet DJ 4-1. I can't bet a golf tournament for a winner 4-1. I've handicapped or I've been a part of enough of these to say I can't.
And not this event, Jason, with 2 courses in play, with crappy weather, with Dustin coming off of Saudi. There's no chance. I don't care if Jason. Even if Dustin Johnson wins, you should just give the money back because it's a bad bet. I'm just kidding, but seriously, it's not for me, anyways.
No, I totally agree. I think a guy that has shown that he is back in form, though, and a guy that just won on the European Tour 2 weeks ago, probably flew in the jet with DJ. Honestly, for all intents, I'm sure he probably did because he's one of the few golfers that came over here. Is Paul Casey. Lost in a playoff to Phil Mickelson 2 years ago here at 20-1. He was my first click. I thought it was pretty good value given the fact we just saw this guy win 2 weeks ago.
I agree. It's like pretty tempting. I mean, I think Casey's getting a little bit discounted here just because like he doesn't win at a good rate. But what do we have against Paul Casey? I mean, he had a fantastic start at the Amex. The irons were lit there. Obviously won in his start after that. And you know,
as much as I love Cantlay, I got to go to Casey first, right?
I double, exactly, right? Like, these guys have a pretty similar win rate over the last couple of years, too. I mean, Cantlay, we love Cantlay, but it's not like he's been lighting it up with, like, 3 wins a year or anything. Yeah. I think that stretch could be coming for Cantlay, but the better values with Casey here, for sure, who's got a ton of great hits. He loves Pebble Beach. I wouldn't put anyone off it. Like I said, I'm probably going to target those guys above them, take shots with at least 2 of Molinari and Spieth and Day, but I think Casey is playing better than those guys right now, so it wouldn't shock me to see him grab another win here.
Yep, I got Casey was my first click. I took one of the 3, Day, Spieth, Molinari. I think they're all kind of equal. Of course, I'm always going to click Spieth first just because of my fandom, but both of those other guys are in there. As we move down the board, a name that kind of stuck out to me he was 80-1, now down a little bit to 70-1 on DraftKings. I'm looking. But of course, if you're looking for, not just on DraftKings, but for the best available odds, make sure you check out our odds shopper tool. Of course, don't make a bet without checking it out. Betting lines can change by the minute, as we've already discussed here, and can vary greatly depending on which book you are using. So that's why it's important to use our Awesemo Odds Shopper tool to find the best line available on the golfer you are betting and give you that edge you need to beat the house. Head on over to oddsshopper.awesemo.com, where we compile the best bets available for every golfer, updated in real time. Sign up for free today to track your bets and receive line movements. One of the line movements I already just mentioned was Brian Harman. Was coming in at 80, now down to 70-1. Hasn't played here since 2014, so we would have to throw the course history angle, throw that right out of it because it missed the cut. But here's a guy that's gotten really hot with his approaches recently. We know how good he is on and around the green. 70-1 in this tournament, I felt like was pretty good value. We've seen the winner kind of come from a guy that's pretty good with his wedges these last couple of years. So he was a click down there for me, as well as Matt Jones. Those were my 2 click in that range.
Definitely like the Brian Harman call. That dude can scramble with the best of them. He'll sink putts, really mentally strong too. And I think in like a bad weather event, that's the type of dude I would not be shocked to see come out of here with the W. So love the Harman value there. I think that's a really good call. I like these guys like Sam Burns and even Wyndham Clark. They're good young players, but I just don't know if I want to take them here on this kind of like veteran-y course with poor weather. I think I would rather go to a guy like Harman this week. I was looking at Alex Noren for a similar kind of play, but I might even add Brian Harman there because I agree. Similar type of players. I already bet Noren, but I'll probably add Harman there because that's ultimately the type of player I want to target. I know one other player in that range. I'll throw quickly, Peter Malnati. Yeah, I'm finally on Jason. I'm riding Peter Malnati till the wheels fall off here because I'm so sick of watching this guy sink every putt and grind his way to like a T15 every week at like insanely low prices. So let's go. Peter Malnati time.
Peter Malnati type 5-1 on the top 10. I mean, the guy looks like he's doing that every week. Yeah, Matt Jones was the other guy. I mentioned 2 top 10s here in the last 4 or 5 years, and seems like he's in pretty good form. 4 straight made cuts. So if we get a little bit of uptick and a little bit of course history knowledge going in there, I like that as well. I think A lot of people might be clicking Kevin Streelman's name. He's talked about how much he loves this course as well. So I don't think that's a terrible bet at 55-1. Now, how about your one bomb? I'm going to throw Andy Ogletree's name out there only because I think this is a much better spot than Farmers, which I think I mentioned on the Farmers show with you. I said, hey, we're going to get him, I think, in a couple weeks. This seems like a better spot. His driving accuracy is terrible, but he won't be hitting driver off the tee that much. So I think it was like, I think I saw 8-1 on the top 20. I like that as my first click.
He's not like a pure bomber, is he, Ogletree?
No,
that's right. Okay. I wanted to make sure I had
the in strokes gained putting in on the tour right now in like the 6 measured rounds or something.
Perfect. Yeah. Wanted to make sure I had the right profile in mind of what type of game he was bringing. But yeah, that sounds about right. So I like it. I mean, again, yeah, let's go deep here. I was going to throw like Michael Thompson, but we can do better than that. How about Sung Yil No at around plus 25,000? Really nice short game. He's a veteran. He's played Pebble multiple times. He's got some good results here. He's trending okay. He's making a couple cuts. This is a quality player at one point. PGA winner who obviously grinding back after military service, but this could be the type of event where you just see it's not that it could be. We know it is. We've seen Ted Potter win here and Vaughn Taylor, right, at huge odds, and even Nick Taylor last year. So especially if the weather gets in, a guy like No could just scramble his face off and do something crazy. So I like the way he's kind of trending just for possibly to pop this week.
I'm such a sucker for Akshay Bhatia bets. He's 33-1 to 10 this week, so I'll probably lose some money on that one, man.
I don't want to talk you off these guys because I know they're such good players, but this probably wouldn't be where I would do it. I'd probably wait till, I don't know, maybe
the weaker field, even a weaker field than this. I mean, given the DJ,
it's a pretty weak field.
Yeah, it is.
Off the course rotation, and it's Pebble. It's a little bit tricky, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I want to bet these guys every week too. I really
do.
He's so talented, right? But I'm just gonna stay on. I'm gonna.
I think we're a little ways away. Granted, we've seen him top 10, but at an easy track, I don't know that I would consider.
Limit yourself to one. Take Ogletree this week. You can take Bhatia next time, Jason. Okay.
Well, that's the thing, right? We know that we're going to get tough weather, so that likely means these courses are going to rank in the top 10 hardest as they did last year, and I just don't think that's the right spot for a 19-year-old. I think at an easy course like we got at the Safeway out in whatever that is out in the Safeway, that seems more of the appropriate spot for him. So, all right, let's go into some DraftKings RDFS preview. We've got 7 minutes left. If we've got our hockey show coming up live at 3:00 just after us. And then, of course, we've got NBA, a full slate of programming coming up, obviously with NFL going off. There's a little boost to all of these across the DFS sites. I love that. Of course, the offerings for our tournament that we got coming up, the AT&T Pebble, we've got, I think, 3 at least getting $100K. The $200 single entry is now up to $50K to first. So, Jeff, just a really good offering, which not a surprise with football ending. But Dustin Johnson at 12,000, that's not a surprise. Patrick Cantlay above 11, not a surprise. In fact, the top 6 golfers I thought are perfectly priced. And in fact, in my course and player preview that I put out before pricing comes out, I got Jordan Spieth exactly right at 9,700. So maybe I have the inside info. I don't. Just letting you know, it was a lucky guess. What do you make of the top 6 prices this week?
Yeah, I think the only one that kind of surprised me a little bit when I looked at it was actually Zalatoris. I didn't think they'd give him that much of a bump. I really thought we'd get like one more cheap week of him, like in the low 9K range. Like he'd be around, around where Molinari is. I just didn't think he'd get that kind of respect. I think he deserves it. I think that's probably appropriate pricing, and I like it because it's tight pricing. It means people can't just pile on him, and we get like a 25% owned Will Zalatoris. So I like the pricing, but I'm surprised that that's where he got put. So I think it's good pricing. I think it's good. I think DJ should probably maybe even be a couple $100 more, but that's fine. 12K at least. I wanted to see 12K. That's perfect. Cantlay's up there too. You can't just pile on Cantlay. Casey and Berger make for interesting pivots. Do you want to pay up for a 10K Paul Casey? He often doesn't. Just going to warn you, Paul Casey, I do like him, but he often doesn't pay off when he gets up to over 10K. I don't even remember the last time Paul Casey paid off as a favor like this. So
the Valspar when he defended, I think he was like 96.
That's true. Okay, that's a good point.
That was it though. Honestly,
and again, maybe a better outright bet. You can sprinkle some money, but anyways, that's for like later in the week. The guys can talk about that. But I think where it gets really interesting is who do you want Day, Spieth, Molinari, even Siwoo in that range. Are you just going to pile in all those guys, or you got to pick and choose? Because it's going to be interesting to see how those guys project out. And again, to your point, we got the tools at Awesemo. It really does help. I know if you had been using them last week, Ortiz was up there popping in the model, probably why Alex had them. So definitely check those out, guys. It can help you with these decisions. But as far as the pricing goes, I think that the real interesting range is starts with Willie Z and then goes under. How do you differentiate between Day, Molly, and Day? Or Day, Molly, and Spieth.
And then you got Siwoo Kim out there who, just won a couple of weeks ago, but looked much better last week. Seems like he's definitely in form. It is. The pricing this week and the strength of field will definitely dictate me utilizing and leaning on those projections from Awesemo this week, because when you look and you've got guys like Kyle Stanley, Charlie Hoffman, and Joel Damon at 7,400, 7,500, even Andrew Putnam, it's not as easy as just going, all right, I'm going to click DJ, click Cantlay, and just click optimize. I don't think it's going to be that easy this week, given the fact that those two golfers, if you plug them in, you're averaging at 6,600 or below for your remaining four guys. Yep. And if you want to throw in Wilkinson, Gay, and Herman as your other 3 or 4, sure. It's just, I don't think it'd be the strategy to win this week. So all intents, it's going to be a little tougher. So let's go quickly through. We've got like 3 minutes left. So let's give our top pick between 9,000 and 8,000. Cameron Davis is there. We've got Phil Mickelson, obviously. He made the cut last week in Saudi Arabia. But maybe Max Homa is who's going to garner the ownership, and given the such that he's made 3 straight cuts, he seems to be playing pretty well. But the guy I think I'd go to is the guy you and I talked about. Brian Harman is my first click in this range.
I like Brian Harman a lot after talking about him. I think him and Noren are really close. I'll lean Alex Noren just because I don't know. Maybe I'm just like a Euro Tour fan, but I like the way he opened at the Farmers. I think he showed some. I think this Pebble suits him a little bit more than Torrey Pines as well, a little shorter. So I think those two guys, I would rank Harman and Noren very close together. Homa's probably rates out as the best play, absolutely. But, you factor in ownership a little. I like pivoting to Noren and Harman in this range.
Yeah, Neesmith and Hahn not messing around with their price this week, over 8,000 as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so below 8,000. So our top, let's call it the 7K range. Again, this is quickly stuff that we've looked at. You got defending champion Nick Taylor there. You got Doug Gim, who seems like, he plays pretty darn well in California. Actually plays really well in California. That's just what he does. You look at the Safeway, top 5, Farmers Insurance, tied for 37th, but he put up 21 birdies. I think I might go back to Doug Gim this week again.
The only argument I have against Doug Gim is if the weather gets bad and everyone starts missing greens a little bit, he don't have the short game. Okay. You don't have the short game to make up for it. So that's the only thing, though. And I don't know how much you should be worrying about that, because this is still going to be a pretty easy setup. Yeah. He's still going to hit more greens than most people. So I do like Doug Gim. I'm going to say Kyle Stanley for me, though. I'm going to lean Stanley. His short game's been trending really well. He hasn't made any putts, but he's only got to make putts for like a couple rounds here. So to make up for it, because his approach game is really fire right now. Like I said, the around the green game has been really good too. So I think Kyle Stanley could be in for like a really kind of toppish kind of week. I like that. Kind of looking at Roy. I might take a look at Roy Sabatini again. I like the veterans here. Guys who can get around the green and strike the irons a little bit. I think Sabatini falls in there. So those are kind of two guys. Definitely going to think about Gim though as well. Like we said before, the guy makes birdies. That's generally what you need to win at Pga Dfs. So
sure is. Now below 7,000, looks like we got about 30 to 60 seconds left. So you don't have to tell me why. You just got to tell me who.
I got nothing under 6K and under 7K yet.
It's really tough right now.
You go.
Oh, man. I mean, Davis Riley didn't look that good last week, so I think he'll be a little bit popular, but he didn't look good enough for me to want to roster him. Jeez, honestly, man, I would rather just...
It's thin. It's weird. We haven't had a weaker field like this in a while, so...
Digging into this below 7K range is going to take a little bit probably for me to look at the guys, but I guess my lean would be something even like Ogletree at 6,600, but I think that's too expensive for him, so... Probably just Ogletree.
I'm going to throw Peter Uihlein as just like a really random...
Mr. Titleist himself, or heir to the Titleist throne,
he's a good scrambler, Uihlein. We haven't seen him in a while. I'm going to throw it Uihlein. this is the event where people like that just pop up. But I got no like heavy lean under 7K right now.
Well, it's understandable as the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am, a strong, I shouldn't say strong field, a lot of players, 156 players with not a lot of the top players. We are going to get a lot of questions. So keep on track for the NFL, or keep on tuned for the NHL show coming up right after us. We will see you next week for the Genesis. Oh, looks like I got a super chat before I get out of here. Kevin Stadler, do it for the cause. We had Boba and Pelt make the cut last week, so let's get Kevin Stads through. That'll do it for us here. We'll see you next week for the Genesis Open in Los Angeles. Cheers, everybody. Gotta get it in. Gotta get it.
We get our weekly Kevin Stadler fan. Love it.
Why do people love it? They just love Kevin Stad.